Last week, we learned about lots of different kinds of figurative language. We learned about similes and metaphors. We learned about personification. We learned alliteration, hyperbole, and onomatopoeia. So last week, we were working on finding those and we practiced writing our own. This week, let's talk about how writers use them and how we can understand figurative language to unlock the hidden meaning in our texts. So to kick it off, we're going to talk about the difference between literal versus figurative language. What does it mean when we say literally, and what does it mean when we say figuratively? Well, literal language means that you are saying what you actually mean. So in this example up here, it says, "I'm so hot, I'm melting," says the snowman in July. So if we're being literal, then the snowman is actually melting, right? He's turning into water. And that would make sense for a snowman. It's so hot, I'm melting. I'm picturing Olaf from Frozen when he's so excited in summer and he's melting. So literally means that's actually happening. The opposite of literal is figurative. Figuratively means you don't mean exactly what you say, but you're trying to show an idea. So up here I've got, "I'm so hot, I'm melting," me when it hits 90 degrees outside. I don't handle the heat so well. So if I say, "I'm so hot, I'm melting," does it make sense that I'm actually melting like a snowman? No, that doesn't make sense. You're not going to melt from 90 degrees. So I'm using figurative language. I'm trying to show an idea. I'm trying to show that it is too hot and I'm uncomfortable. So in this sense, I'm using a hyperbole, right? Figurative language to show an idea. The snowman might be literal. He actually is melting. My example is figurative. I want to show you that it's so hot I'm uncomfortable. Let's look at a couple other examples. Here's a really common one. "I could eat a horse." If I'm being literal, it literally means this person will actually eat a horse. We should be concerned, right? That's pretty out there if someone's going to actually eat a horse. Most of the time, if someone's going to say that, "I could eat a horse," they're being figurative. They don't mean they're actually going to eat a horse. They're just trying to show that they're hungry. Literal means I mean what I say. Figurative means I'm trying to show you something. Let's look at another example. "It was raining frogs and fish all over the city." If I'm being literal, it means that there are actually frogs and fish falling from the sky. Now, I read a nonfiction article a while back about a tornado that sucked up all the water in a pond along with the frogs and fish in the pond. And when the tornado ran out of energy, it dropped those frogs and fish all over a town. That actually happened. So in my nonfiction text, when it said it was raining frogs and fish all over the city, they really meant it. They were being literal. However, I could just as easily see that phrase in a story where they said, "It was a blustery day. It was raining frogs and fish all over the city." But they might mean it figuratively in that story. They might mean there aren't actually frogs and fish falling from the sky. I need to figure out what the author is trying to show me. So right now you might be going, "Okay, but how do I know when they're being literal and how do I know when they're being figurative?" That's the real trick. So let's take a look at some strategies. What should I do as a reader? Because sometimes the author is going to be literal, and I should say, when the author writes it, they mean what they said. And sometimes the author is going to be figurative, where they want me to see what they mean, but they don't want me to take it literally. Here's how we can figure that out. As you read, be on the lookout for evidence of figurative language. That means, is the reader, oops, it should say is the author, is the author using a type of figurative language that I recognize? Sometimes as you're reading, you go, "Aha, that's a simile. I know that one." Or you might say, "Oh, I see the alliteration. They want me to pay attention to that." You might notice personification. "Hey, wait, the flag can't actually wave at me." You might notice hyperbole, like when I said, "It's so hot I'm melting," I was being over the top. Or you might notice onomatopoeia. There's a bunch of sounds in their writing. So as you're reading, if you automatically recognize, aha, I recognize that type of figurative language, that's a great clue. Another time to stop and ask yourself, is the author being literal or figurative, is when you're reading and what the author says doesn't make sense literally, like that fish and frog statement. If I was reading a book called Strange Things That Have Rained from the Sky, I might be ready to accept that frogs and fish could literally fall from the sky. But if I am not reading a book about that and they said it was raining frogs and fish, I might stop and think for a minute. Does the author want me to imagine this literally or figuratively? Whenever you find figurative language, the question you need to ask is, what is the author trying to show me? Authors use figurative language for a reason, and your hint is to think about the plot, the characters, the setting, and the author's message. When the author is using figurative language, they're trying to show you something about the plot, the characters, the setting, and the author's message. On the next couple slides, you are going to look for evidence of figurative language. So remember, be on the lookout for figurative language you already know, and be on the lookout for times when what the author said doesn't make sense literally. I don't think that actually happens.